Hello and happy new year. I'm so excited to have our first ever chat in 2023 with you. And today we're going to be talking about the power of prioritization and how we can make the most of our time, especially as we're venturing into this new year. Everyone's coming in with New Year's resolutions about prioritizing the right tasks and making the most out of their time. So I'm going to throw it over to you for a brief introduction and then we can get right into it.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. My name is Helene Segura, and I am a time management fixer. My passion in life is to help people streamline their work days so that way they can have a life outside of work.
That's beautiful. And what does your day-to-day look like as an expert in time management, let's say? How did you get started and where are you now in terms of how you manage your day-to-day?
I got started because I almost flunked out of college due to my issues with time management. So I started getting some serious lessons back in my college days. And at the same time, when I was on scholastic probation that semester, I happened to sign up for a psychology class that helped me understand everything I was doing wrong. It wasn't about time management, it was about what was happening in my brain and how I was working against it. So that's what started me on the path in studying time management and how to be more efficient. And not efficient as in, let's be a robot and let's see if we can work for 15 hours a day. It's how can we be more efficient so we have room for more fun and more opportunity in life. So that's why when people hear about my days, it seems pretty structured. Well, it's pretty structured so that if I want to have a gin and tonic at 5 p.m., I can have a gin and tonic at 5 p.m. because I make sure there is room for fun in the day.
I love that, and it ties so perfectly with our motto at Before Sunset because what we're trying to do is empower users to be able to make the workday work for themselves in a way that if they want to have a gin and tonic at sunset hour, that's something that they are empowered to do so. And what kind of a role does prioritization play in this? Like, let's go over it with an example in your day-to-day life. Like, what do you tend to prioritize? Is it about like timing where you place those tasks within the day? Or about like within the month? Like, how does that work?
Prioritization is the absolute key to time management. The mantra that I preach is time management is all about mind management. So, to help your brain manage all of the time, all of the tasks and responsibilities, it's really important to understand priorities. Because I think most of us have heard the saying, if everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority. And our brains get really overwhelmed when we have all of these different irons in the fire and we don't know what to do next. So, both in my personal life and what I coach clients to do is to identify their top three priorities in their personal life, their top three work priorities. And priorities aren't tasks. Tasks are the actions that you take to reach your priorities and meet your priorities. Priorities are what's driving you, what's your mission. So my work days are actually driven by my personal priorities. So I make sure my personal priorities are in place first, and then I schedule out my work day. So I don't always work the typical quote unquote 8 to 5. I am working in blocks based on what else needs to be done in my life. And I realize not everybody has that freedom and flexibility, but you can still apply the same principles to an 8 to 5 day, Monday through Friday, or working a night shift, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., Wednesday through Tuesday. So my priority is based on what time do I want to close up shop for the day? In other words, clock out for the day. And based on that, I build my workday backwards from there. And as far as what I do during the workday, it is based on what do I have due in the upcoming days, because I don't believe in burning the midnight oil because we just drag ourselves down and we're not nearly as productive. So I'm always looking several days ahead to see what needs to be wrapped up. So I'm not stressed out about, oh my gosh, I need to finish this. So that's how the prioritization happens.
I know from what you're saying, I'm also hearing that time management looks very different for every single person. And
Yes.
what would you recommend people do to understand what time management and prioritization should look like for them, as opposed to following on like industry trends and just bandwagoning into like some other person's time management tips?
Right. I think it's very important to gather information about time management, but then take a look at your own life and your own needs and apply it to what needs to happen for you. So the first thing is, as I mentioned, you are identifying your personal priorities. So is it important for you to be with your kids at a certain time? Is it important for you to practice self-care? I hope it is, because that's really important, to take care of yourself, whether that looks like exercise or yoga or meditation. And when do you want those things to happen? Then, based on that, let's say, see, a lot of people who come to me for coaching, they are operating underwater. So we're not looking at this happy life with everything smooth and they just need to make a few adjustments. We're looking at this person is underwater and they need help from drowning. So we begin prioritization with, what do I need to get done today so nobody dies, nobody gets fired? I mean, it's that extreme. And then after they have done that for about 2 weeks, they realize they're no longer drowning. So then the question becomes, what do I need to do tomorrow to make sure nobody gets fired, nobody dies? And then we're working on that in 2 week segments. The next round of questioning would be, what do I need to get done 2 days from now? What do I need to get done 3 days from now? And we start building that out and building the priorities. And then the time management comes in because that's very strategic. Then, as far as tactical, we are looking at what are the tasks that need to be done to meet those particular priorities that you've identified, and how long do those tasks take? Because that is a key element that most people leave out of their to-do list, is time estimation. How long will this take? That's why we end up creating these totally unrealistic to-do lists, because we haven't estimated our time. So between strategic planning and then tactical planning of time estimation, that's how we start building up our time management skills.
That's definitely a challenge that we're also trying to solve with our platform because we noticed that a lot of people tend to think they're superheroes when they're creating a to-do list for themselves, thinking that they can do all of these stuff in a day, in a week, in a month. And it come the end of the month, when they look back, they notice that they have overwhelmed themselves with a burdensome like list of tasks and they haven't really effectively used their time. What I really want to kind of touch on is what that looks like in your personal life and in your professional life. So time management applies to both domains. Do you think that there's an overarching prioritization system that can apply to the more like big picture situation, or do you think like personal life prioritization and work life prioritization should go separately?
I think they need to be looked at together, because it would be really nice to say, well, our lives are black and white, and you only have this time that you have for work and you have this time for personal life. But so many of us live such blended lives that it's really difficult to look at them separately. So they should be looked at the same time, but I'm hoping that we prioritize our personal needs first and then bring in those work needs and take a look at that. And then once you have done your own personal planning, it's then important to sit down with every person who is in your household and discuss this with them, because part of where tensions can arise and therefore productivity drops is that we are in silent mental clashes with our loved ones at home, and it's not intentional. It's because we haven't discussed what these priorities are and how we want to apply these priorities time wise. And when you build in that extra element of tension, that can be really tough. And like I said, it drags down our productivity, so we don't get as much done, and then we're not spending time with our loved ones, and that's what we were trying to avoid in the first place. So it's really important, I think, to look at both at the same time.
How do you create these prioritization approaches? Like, do you think you come up with them when you're talking to a loved one? Do you write them out? Do you use like any technological assets while you're trying to determine what are my priorities and how do I want my day-to-day like plan and schedules to go hand in hand with that?
Mm-hmm. And once again, you know how you mentioned earlier that time management is very individual, the planning is very individual as well. So for those who are paper based, then absolutely it would be great to begin writing these out. And it doesn't have to be beautiful. You don't have to know calligraphy. It can be on sticky notes with the worst penmanship in the entire world. And yes, it can be done out loud. So if you don't want to do this on your own, you can have a little chat session with a family member or with a friend or with the business colleagues to map things out. As far as digital goes, for anybody who's digitally inclined, whether it's your platform or Before Sunset or another one, you can capture all of these thoughts. And that way you have it there, you can return to it because our lives are dynamic. They're going to change. So when you do this, you're not saying this is forever and ever and ever. You're saying this is my life right now for the next couple of months. And then you'll want to go back and reevaluate. So it's really helpful if you've got it in that digital platform so you can return to it and revisit it and make any tweaks that are necessary.
And do you think that in the beginning of the year, a lot of people come up with these New Year's resolutions, and then we end up making like goals about like how we want to approach work, how we want to approach health, like even like our nutrition, our sports, our exercise. What would your recommendation be for people who are coming into 2023 with huge ambitions, huge priorities, let's say, and
Mhm.
are struggling to make them turn them into reality?
I would say definitely keep that priorities list because you have identified what's important to you, but I would like you to take it a step further. And I would like you to identify what is that one personal priority, what is that one work priority that when you accomplish it, it would make such a big difference in your life. And I would like you to focus on that first. The issue that so many of us have with New Year's resolutions or any type of goal throughout the year is usually it comes to us in this wonderful moment of inspiration, and we think that we can do all of this all at one time. And that's really hard to do because it separates us in so many directions. It's really hard to concentrate. So if you can concentrate on just the one, but daily, you can be reviewing your goals or resolutions list to remind yourself of what else you have going on. You will see that as you're working hard to accomplish this one, in the background, your brain is realizing, oh, yes, I'm slowly but surely working on these others. It's just I'm making more progress on this one first.
That's very nice. And I think I'm gonna apply to that to my New Year's resolutions as well as I try to venture into working out 4 times a week and eating more healthy and cutting down alcohol. Like I think this is gonna be helpful. But as a final question, just
Mhm.
as a parting like inspirational thought, I know a lot of people look at time as a foe, but I think time can easily become your friend. And what would your best tip be in order to make time your friend?
We tend to look at time from a scarcity mindset. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough time. And when we operate in fear, that does not help with decision making. Whereas if you operate from a mindset of abundance, I have 24 hours. What would I like to do with these 24 hours? It frees up your mind to all the possibilities. And if you can just bring in that time estimation, then you can build out your realistic 24 hours and be in much more control of your time. So just remember that time management is all about mind management, and you do have the power to tell your time what to do.
That's beautiful. Well, with that, I would like to thank you so much for your time and joining us at Before Sunset with your beautiful time management techniques. We're so excited to have you as a part of our community, and we're so excited to continue hearing from you about your time management tips and tricks.
Thank you.